Welcome to this podcast from Stratfor, leader in global intelligence.
It's election day in Afghanistan, and as expected, there's been some violence throughout the country, keeping polling stations in a few provinces closed. Voter turnout in the early part of the day was said to be low in many parts of southern Afghanistan and in Kabul after sporadic rocket attacks, explosions, and shootings in several provinces. Afghanistan's ability to even conduct presidential elections has been seen as an important test for domestic and international security forces there. But this week, there's another test of security forces underway, and it's taking place in Iraq. Hello, I'm Marla Dial with the Stratfor Daily Podcast for Thursday, August 20th. There's word today that 10 Iraqi police and military officers are being questioned in connection with a series of coordinated attacks in Baghdad. About 100 people were killed and more than 1,000 were injured yesterday in 10 explosions that targeted government offices. Those included powerful vehicle bombs that detonated near the Finance Ministry and the Foreign Ministry, about 3 minutes apart. Coordinated attacks like that are often seen as a trademark of al-Qaeda, whose remnants are still active in Iraq. But so far, no one's claimed responsibility for yesterday's strikes. Officials have been quick to lay blame, though, and right now it's centering on the Iraqi security forces responsible for keeping central Baghdad safe. American forces handed off security duties for Iraq's cities at the end of June, and violence ever since then has been on the rise. Most of it's been centered in the north, where there are frictions between Sunnis and Kurds, but yesterday's attacks called to mind the worst of the Sunni versus Shiite violence that began to rip Baghdad apart in 2004. Government officials say Iraqi forces should be held responsible for security breaches that permitted the attacks to take place, and one Shiite politician who appeared on TV called for Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki to fire the security and intelligence folks in charge. Al-Maliki's Shiite-dominated government is clearly being challenged, and that challenge is coming at what George Friedman calls a moment of truth for the U.S. strategy in Iraq. The clock is winding down on U.S. military involvement there, and Washington very much wants to focus on Afghanistan. But Stratfor analysts say Iraqi forces are less than world-class and will continue struggling to assert their influence in their own country. And as this week's attacks have shown, the sectarian contests in Iraq are far from settling down. The Americans have entered the endgame for Iraq, but there are still domestic and foreign forces working to disrupt the entire process. Stratfor founder George Friedman examines those issues, including the Arab-Kurd rivalries and the Iran factor, in this week's Geopolitical Intelligence Report. You can read that for free by logging on to our website at www.stratfor.com. Be sure to check out latest updates on Iran's political turmoil and those elections in Afghanistan while you're there. I'm Marla Dial. Thanks as always for listening, and enjoy your Thursday.